The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was 3 times larger than the biggest human spacecraft ever built. Smaller ships surrounded it like moons around a planet. On Earth, people looked up at the sky in wonder and fear. Admiral Xenfar stood on the bridge of his command vessel, looking down at the blue planet. He had done this many times before on many worlds. Earth would be the 301st planet to join the Galactic Empire. The process was always the same: arrive, show power, offer terms, and add another world to the Empire's collection. "They are primitive," said his second-in-command. "Their technology is barely space-worthy." "All the easier," replied Admiral Xenfar. "Prepare the diplomatic shuttle. I want to meet these humans and have this finished by tomorrow." On Earth, emergency meetings filled the United Nations building in New York. Representatives from every nation argued about how to respond to the aliens. President Samantha Hayes called for calm. "We need to show unity," she said. "We will send our best diplomat and military officer to meet them." Ambassador John Miller had negotiated peace deals in the world's worst war zones. Commander Lisa Warren was a decorated officer known for her quick thinking. They were chosen to represent Earth. "Remember," President Hayes told them before they left, "you speak for all humanity now." The meeting took place on neutral ground, an empty field in Switzerland. The alien shuttle landed with a soft hiss. 3 tall, blue-skinned beings emerged. Their eyes had no pupils, just solid gold orbs that seemed to look through rather than at the humans. "I am Admiral Xenfar of the Galactic Empire," the tallest alien said in perfect English. They had clearly studied Earth's languages. "We welcome Earth to our family of worlds." Ambassador Miller stepped forward. "We are honored to meet beings from another world and eager to learn about galactic society." The aliens led them into their shuttle where holographic displays showed the vastness of the Empire. Hundreds of planets across thousands of light years, all under one rule. "The benefits of joining us are many," Admiral Xenfar explained. "We will share some technology, provide protection, and allow limited trade with other worlds." Then he presented the terms. Earth would surrender all independent space travel. Earth's resources would be available to the Empire as needed. Humans could not leave their solar system without special permission. Earth's governments would remain but answer to Empire officials. "This is our standard agreement," Admiral Xenfar said. "All 300 worlds in our empire have signed it. We expect Earth to do the same." Commander Warren spoke up. "We need time to review these terms and consult with our leaders." The Admiral's golden eyes widened slightly. "Review. The terms are not negotiable. They are the same for all worlds." "Even so," Ambassador Miller said firmly, "we cannot make such decisions without proper consideration. We request 48 hours." The aliens whispered among themselves. Finally, Admiral Xenfar nodded. "Very unusual, but granted. We will return in 2 Earth days for your answer." Back at the United Nations, Miller and Warren presented the Empire's terms. The room grew quiet as the leaders of Earth realized what was being asked of them. "They want us to become a colony," President Hayes said. "Not partners." "Worse than a colony," added Warren. "More like a farm they can harvest whenever they want." For 3 hours, the world's leaders debated. Some argued for acceptance, fearing alien technology. Others demanded rejection, preferring to fight rather than surrender. President Hayes finally called for a vote. One by one, the nations made their choice. When the last vote was cast, the decision was clear. Earth would not sign. "Draft a counterproposal," Hayes ordered. "One that respects our independence. We'll offer friendship, trade, and cooperation, but as equals, not subjects." Ambassador Miller nodded. "And if they refuse?" The room fell silent. President Hayes looked around at the representatives of humanity. "Then we stand together, whatever comes." 21 days passed before the Empire ships returned. They appeared suddenly, more of them this time. Their shadows fell across major cities as they positioned themselves above Earth's surface. People watched with worry as the alien vessels hovered like storm clouds. Admiral Xenthar's voice boomed through all radio and television channels across the planet. "We have returned for your answer. Prepare your signing ceremony." President Hayes stood in the Oval Office, the counter-proposal document on her desk. It offered friendship between equals, cooperation in science and culture, and mutual respect for boundaries. Nothing like what the Empire wanted. "Are we ready?" she asked the people gathered around her. Colonel Eric Daniels, head of Earth's space defense, nodded. "As ready as we can be. Every nation has shared their military resources. Our satellites are watching their ships. We've learned a few things about their technology." "Not enough," said Dr. Paul Johnson, the chief scientist. "Their weapons could destroy our cities in minutes." "Maybe," replied Colonel Daniels, "but humans are good at surprising people. We've been preparing since they left." Ambassador Miller prepared to meet the aliens again. This time, the meeting would happen at the United Nations building. Admiral Xenthar arrived with 6 guards, all carrying strange devices at their sides that everyone assumed were weapons. "We are pleased you have come to your senses," the Admiral said as he sat down. "It is time to welcome Earth properly into the Empire." Miller slid the counter-proposal across the table. "This is Earth's response. We offer friendship as equals, not submission." Admiral Xenthar didn't even look at the document. His golden eyes narrowed. "You misunderstand. There is no negotiation. You will accept our terms." "We cannot," Miller said simply. The Admiral stood up, his tall blue form towering over the humans. "Perhaps you don't understand your situation. Look outside." The building shook slightly as a small alien ship fired a beam at an empty field nearby. The ground exploded, leaving a crater 30 feet deep. "That was one small weapon from one small ship," said Admiral Xenthar. "We have thousands. You have 48 hours to accept our original terms, or we will show you the true power of the Empire." After the aliens left, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. On screens around the room, they watched as Empire ships positioned themselves above major cities worldwide. "They're trying to scare us," said Colonel Daniels. "And they should. Their technology is far beyond ours, but not as far as they think," added Major Olivia Garcia, who had been studying the alien ships. "Their energy systems leave patterns we can track. Their communications aren't as secure as they believe. We've learned a lot in 3 weeks." President Hayes looked around the room. "I need your honest assessment. If we refuse and they attack, do we have any chance at all?" Colonel Daniels stood up. "A small one. But here's what they don't know about humans. We've spent our entire history fighting against stronger enemies and sometimes winning. We're good at finding weaknesses, at adapting, at surviving. And we've never faced a challenge like this before, so they have no idea what we might do." President Hayes nodded and turned to the communications director. "Prepare a global broadcast. Every channel, every language. The people need to know what's happening." That evening, people across Earth watched as President Hayes appeared on their screens. She explained the Empire's demands and their threats. Instead of hiding the danger, she was honest about the power difference between Earth and the Empire. "But there is something they don't understand," she said toward the end of her speech. "Freedom isn't negotiable to humans. Throughout our history, people have chosen to fight against impossible odds rather than live on their knees. The question before us isn't whether we can win, but whether we can live with ourselves if we surrender without trying." The response was unexpected. Instead of panic, a wave of unity spread across nations. From New York to Beijing, London to Lagos, people gathered in streets and squares. They carried signs in different languages, but with the same message: "We will not surrender." The deadline approached. Earth had made its choice. The sun rose on deadline day. Empire ships still hovered above Earth's major cities. Families hugged each other tight, not knowing what the day might bring. Soldiers stood ready at their posts. In homes, schools, and offices, people watched their screens and waited. At exactly noon, Ambassador Miller walked up the steps of the United Nations building. Camera crews from every nation filmed his slow, steady climb. Inside, Admiral Xanthar waited with his guards. "You have had time to reconsider," the Admiral said. His voice was cold. "I trust you are now ready to join the Empire properly." Miller stood straight, his face calm despite the weight of the moment. "Admiral, I bring Earth's official response. We came prepared to negotiate as equals. Since that option is unavailable, we must decline your terms." The room fell silent. The golden eyes of the Admiral widened in what seemed like genuine shock. "No species has ever refused," he said finally. "This is unprecedented." "Humans are often unprecedented," Miller replied simply. Admiral Xanthar's blue skin darkened with anger. "You don't understand what you're doing. The Empire has crushed civilizations far more advanced than yours. Your weapons are toys to us. Your defiance is meaningless." "Perhaps," said Miller, "but it is our choice to make." The Admiral turned sharply and left with his guards. Within minutes, his shuttle rose from Earth and returned to the command ship. Across the planet, people held their breath, waiting for destruction to rain down from above. But something unexpected happened. The Empire ships began to move, pulling away from the cities and gathering high in orbit. No weapons fired. No attacks came. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Xanthar activated the Galactic Communication Network, connecting to thousands of worlds across the Empire. "Galactic alert," he announced, his voice traveling faster than light to every corner of the Empire. "Humans have refused to negotiate. Repeat, humans have refused to negotiate. This is not a drill. Prepare containment protocols." Across the vast reaches of space, the message spread. On hundreds of worlds, beings of all shapes and sizes received the news with disbelief. No species had ever refused the Empire's terms. The concept was so foreign that many leaders demanded confirmation that the message was correct. In the Imperial Palace on the Central World, the Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. 12 ancient beings, each representing a sector of the Empire, tried to understand this strange new situation. "Perhaps they don't understand the consequences," suggested one counselor. "It's more than that," said another. "My sources say they understand perfectly well. They simply value their freedom more than their safety." The oldest counselor, a being who had seen the Empire expand for 3 centuries, spoke softly. "We have never faced this before, a species that prefers death to submission. We must consider our approach carefully." Back on Earth, Colonel Daniels worked tirelessly in the Global Command Center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens showed the Empire ships regrouping in orbit. Intelligence officers analyzed every movement, every signal. "They're forming a blockade," Major Garcia said, pointing to a display showing the ships arranging themselves around Earth. "They're going to cut us off from space." "But they haven't attacked," noted Colonel Daniels. "That means something." In another part of the facility, Commander Warren coordinated with space forces from every nation. Earth had 30 military spacecraft, none designed for battle against alien technology. Yet teams of engineers worked frantically to modify them, adding weapons based on what they had learned about Empire technology. "We won't win in a direct fight," Commander Warren told her pilots. "But we don't need to win. We just need to show them we aren't easy prey." President Hayes received hourly updates in a secure bunker. The world waited for her decisions, united as never before in human history. Nations that had been enemies for generations now shared resources and information. "They expect us to surrender when we see their blockade," she told her advisors. "They expect fear to do what threats couldn't. They still don't understand humans." She looked at a map showing Empire ship positions. "Let's show them who they're dealing with." 3 days passed with the Empire ships forming a tight ring around Earth. No messages came from Admiral Xanthar. No attacks happened. But the alien ships prevented any Earth vessel from going beyond the upper atmosphere. The blockade was complete. In the command center, Commander Lisa Warren studied the enemy formation on the large screen. She had been a pilot before becoming a commander, and she could see patterns in the way the Empire positioned their ships. "There's a rhythm to their movements," she explained to Colonel Daniels. "They'd rotate positions every 6 hours. And look here," she pointed to one section of the blockade. "Their largest ships stay in fixed positions, while smaller ones patrol between them." Colonel Daniels nodded. "You're thinking we can use that. I'm thinking we need to show them that blockading Earth is not as easy as they believe." Within hours, Commander Warren had selected a team of 12 pilots and their ships. They were small, fast vessels originally designed for satellite repair. Now they carried hastily added weapons based on what Earth scientists had learned about Empire technology. "This is not a full attack," she told the pilots. "This is a message. We go in fast, hit 3 targets, and disappear faster. Show them humans aren't going to sit quietly under their blockade." At midnight, when the Empire ships were in the middle of their rotation pattern, the Earth vessels launched. They used a new stealth technology that made them nearly invisible to Empire sensors. They slipped through the blockade at its weakest point. On the bridge of his command ship, Admiral Xenthar received an urgent alert. "Small objects detected near Sector 7, reported his officer. "Too small for our standard scans." "Debris, perhaps," the Admiral said dismissively. "Earth launches many primitive satellites that—" His words were cut short by a sudden alarm. 3 Empire cruisers reported direct hits to their command systems. The damage wasn't severe, but it was precise. On the main screen, the Admiral watched in disbelief as the Earth vessels executed a maneuver his pilots would consider suicidal, flying directly between 2 major Empire ships, firing with surprising accuracy, then vanishing before the larger ships could respond. "Impossible," whispered the Admiral. "Their technology shouldn't allow such precision." The damaged Empire ships drifted out of formation, creating gaps in the blockade. Rather than risk further damage, their captains pulled back to make repairs. For several hours, the blockade had visible holes. On Earth, videos of the Empire ships retreating spread quickly across news networks and social media. People cheered in streets and homes. It was a small victory, but it lifted spirits worldwide. Humans had struck back. In the Empire's main communication center, officers watched with concern as messages about the Earth attack spread across alien networks. Many species under Empire control secretly shared the videos, adding comments like, "Someone finally fought back," and "Humans show courage we never did." Admiral Xenthar faced an urgent call from the Galactic Council. The 12 ancient beings appeared as holograms around him, their faces showing a mix of anger and concern. "You assured us they would surrender quickly," said the lead counselor. "Instead, they have damaged 3 of our ships and made us look weak across the galaxy." "A minor setback," the Admiral insisted. "Their primitive attacks caused minimal damage." "Yet our ships retreated," pointed out another counselor. "The visual impact is significant. Other worlds are watching." Back on Earth, Commander Warren and her pilots received a hero's welcome at their base. President Hayes personally called to congratulate them. "We showed them something important today," the president told them. "We showed the humans will not be imprisoned on our own planet without a fight." Colonel Daniels was already planning the next move. "They'll adjust their blockade pattern now. They'll be watching for similar attacks. We need something new." Major Garcia entered with fresh intelligence. "Our satellites have detected massive energy signatures beyond the moon. More Empire ships are coming. Many more." The room grew quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. The Empire had been surprised by human resistance, but they wouldn't be caught off guard again. They were sending a full battle fleet. Commander Warren looked at the data and took a deep breath. "Well, we got their attention. Now, the real fight begins." The battle fleet of the Empire arrived 5 days later. It was a terrifying sight. Over 200 massive warships appeared near the moon, their metal hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Each one was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Leading them was the flagship of Grand Marshal Zex Vorn, the most famous military leader in the Empire. Earth watched through telescopes and satellites as the fleet approached. In homes and schools, people looked at the images with fear, but also determination. They had chosen this path together. In the underground command center, Colonel Daniels briefed world leaders on what they faced. The Empire has sent their best commander and enough firepower to destroy every major city on Earth. They expect us to surrender now. And if we don't? Asked one of the leaders. Then we need a miracle, Colonel Daniels said honestly. We can't win a direct battle against this fleet. Just then, Dr. Karen Mitchell entered the room. She was a physicist who had been studying the Empire's technology since their first arrival. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she had a hint of excitement in her voice. I may have found something, she said. A weakness in their faster-than-light systems. When their ships travel or communicate across the galaxy, they use a specific energy pattern. If we can create a pulse that disrupts this pattern, we might temporarily disable their ships. Colonel Daniels looked skeptical. How temporarily? Minutes, maybe. But in a battle, minutes can be enough. Major Garcia studied Dr. Mitchell's data. We'd need to get very close to their ships to use this. Most of our pilots wouldn't survive. Not just military ships, Dr. Mitchell explained. We could modify civilian vessels too. Hundreds of them. Some would get through. President Hayes considered the idea. It was desperate, but they had no better options. Do it. Modify every ship we can, and call for civilian volunteers. The response was overwhelming. Pilots from airlines, private plane owners, even people who flew small recreational aircraft stepped forward. Engineers worked nonstop to modify everything from jumbo jets to crop dusters with Dr. Mitchell's pulse device. On the third day, Grand Marshal Zex Vorn sent his message to Earth. His hologram appeared in government buildings worldwide. I am not like Admiral Xenthar, he said, his voice deep and cold. I do not offer terms. I offer only this choice. Surrender immediately, or I will destroy one major city every 6 hours until you do. You have 1 day to decide. That night, President Hayes met with her top advisors. Are we ready? She asked. As ready as we'll ever be, Colonel Daniels replied. We're calling it Operation Thunderclap. Every modified vessel we have will launch at once from points all around the globe. Their goal is to get close enough to the Empire ships to activate Dr. Mitchell's pulse, and our regular military ships. Commander Warren will lead them in a direct attack. It's a suicide mission, but it will distract the Empire fleet while our modified civilian ships approach from different angles. President Hayes nodded slowly. When Grand Marshal Zex Vorn expects our surrender tomorrow, we'll give him our answer this way instead. Meanwhile, aboard the Empire flagship, Grand Marshal Zex Vorn reviewed the reports about Earth's defenses. Unlike Admiral Xenthar, he took humans seriously as opponents. Their technology is primitive, but they are creative and determined. He told his officers. They will try something unexpected. Be prepared for anything. One of his officers looked confused. Sir, what could they possibly do against our fleet? Their weapons can barely scratch our shields. The Grand Marshal turned to him. Never underestimate a species fighting for its home. I have conquered 32 worlds, and the desperate ones are always the most dangerous. As dawn broke over Earth, Operation Thunderclap prepared to launch. Thousands of pilots said goodbye to their families, knowing many would not return. Commander Warren recorded a final message to be released after the battle. Whatever happens today, she said, remember that humans faced the greatest power in the galaxy and chose freedom over submission. That choice defines us more than victory or defeat ever could. The Earth forces waited for the signal to begin. The greatest battle in human history was about to start. Just as Operation Thunderclap was about to begin, something unexpected happened. 3 separate messages arrived at Earth's communication centers. They came through channels the Empire didn't know existed, using codes that bypassed their monitoring systems. Colonel Daniels rushed the messages to President Hayes. "We're not alone," he said, his voice filled with surprise. "These are from species within the Empire, the Tellarites, Vosians, and Nimbari. They're offering help." President Hayes read the messages carefully. The Tellarites had been under Empire control for 2 centuries. The Vosians for 5. The Nimbari were recent additions to the Empire, conquered only 30 years ago. All had watched Earth's defiance with growing hope. "We have suffered under Empire rule for too long," wrote the Tellarite leader. "Humans have shown courage we thought impossible. We will help however we can." The Tellarites sent detailed information about the Empire fleet's formation and weak points. The Vosians, known for their technical skills, provided specifications that helped Dr. Mitchell refine her pulse weapon. Most surprising was the message from the Nimbari, who had members serving on Empire ships. "When the moment comes," their message promised, "look for internal failures across the fleet. We may be few, but we will create chaos from within." Hope spread through the command center. Earth was still outmatched, but no longer completely alone. Grand Marshal Zexworn grew impatient as the deadline approached. "No response from Earth," reported his communications officer. They'd gone silent. "Prepare to target their first city," ordered the Grand Marshal. "Let's see if that loosens their tongues." At that moment, his sensors detected a large formation of Earth vessels rising from the planet's surface. Not just military ships, but aircraft of all types. Passenger planes, cargo carriers, even small private jets. They formed an unusual pattern, spreading out in all directions. "What are they doing?" asked the Grand Marshal. "Those aren't warships. They can't possibly hurt us." "It appears to be some kind of desperate last stand," said his second-in-command, perhaps a symbolic gesture before surrender. The Grand Marshal wasn't convinced. "No, this is something else. Target those vessels immediately." As the Empire fleet prepared to fire, Commander Warren led Earth's 30 military spacecraft directly toward the center of the enemy formation. It looked like a suicidal charge. The Empire ships shifted to meet this obvious threat, leaving small gaps in their defense. Through these gaps slipped hundreds of civilian aircraft, each carrying Dr. Mitchell's pulse device. They moved closer and closer to the giant Empire ships. Many were destroyed by enemy fire, but there were too many to stop them all. "Now," ordered Colonel Daniels from Earth. All at once, every surviving Earth vessel activated their pulse weapons. A wave of energy spread across space, specifically targeting the frequency used by Empire faster-than-light systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, Empire ships began to drift. Their main power systems flickered and failed. Their weapons went silent. Not permanently damaged, but temporarily disabled, just as Dr. Mitchell had predicted. At that exact moment, the promised Nimbari sabotage began. Across dozens of Empire ships, critical systems mysteriously malfunctioned. Life support faltered. Internal doors locked or opened randomly. Communications cut out. In the confusion, Commander Warren's ships targeted the flagship of Grand Marshal Zexworn. They couldn't destroy it, but they damaged its engines and weapons systems before it could recover. For the first time in centuries, an Empire fleet was in chaos. Grand Marshal Zexworn watched in disbelief as nearly half his ships drifted helplessly or reported critical failures. "Impossible," he whispered. "How could they coordinate such an attack?" When his systems finally came back online, he made a difficult decision. All ships that can still maneuver form a defensive position. We're withdrawing to the edge of this system to regroup. The retreat order spread through the fleet. Damaged Empire ships limped away from Earth, while those completely disabled had to be towed by others. What had been planned as a quick victory had become the Empire's most humiliating defeat in generations. On Earth, people watched as the mighty Empire fleet pulled back. No one cheered yet. They knew the Empire would return. But for the first time, They truly believed they might survive. Colonel Daniels looked at the battle report with amazement. We just faced the greatest military power in the galaxy, and we bloodied their nose. News of Earth's victory spread across the galaxy faster than the Empire could control it. The Galactic Communication Network, normally tightly monitored, overflowed with messages about the battle. Empire citizens shared videos captured by ship cameras showing the retreat of Grand Marshal Zexvorn's fleet. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. The 12 ancient beings who ruled the Empire gathered in their grand chamber on the capital world. Their faces showed shock and anger. "How could this happen?" demanded the head counselor. "How could primitive humans defeat our greatest fleet?" No one had a good answer. One counselor suggested it was sabotage from within. Another blamed poor leadership. A third wondered if humans had help from unknown advanced aliens. "Whatever the reason," said the oldest counselor, "the damage is done. For the first time in our history, a species has successfully resisted us. Others are watching." That prediction proved true. Within days, reports came from across the Empire of growing unrest. On the mining planet of Dracon, workers refused to pay taxes. In the American system, 3 planets declared they would keep their resources for themselves. The Quarian colonies, which had provided minerals to the Empire for centuries, announced they would now set their own prices. The Empire tried to hide these events, but it was too late. The story of Earth had become a spark of hope for hundreds of oppressed worlds. On Earth, Ambassador Miller worked with their new alien allies. Using secure channels provided by the Tellarites, he contacted key neutral systems in the galaxy. These were powerful independent worlds that had maintained their freedom by carefully balancing between competing powers. Miller shared evidence of Empire abuses gathered from the Tellarites, Vosians, and Nimbari. He showed them records of planets stripped of resources, species forced into labor, and the true nature of Empire protection. The response surprised even Miller. The Solarians, known for their advanced technology, publicly condemned the Empire's actions against Earth. The Andari Federation, a group of wealthy trading worlds, announced they would reconsider their treaties with the Empire. The powerful Juxan Kingdom offered to send observers to Earth to document the situation. Meanwhile, Earth prepared for the Empire's return. They knew Grand Marshal Zexvorn would not accept defeat. He would come back with a larger fleet and new tactics. Dr. Mitchell worked with Vosian engineers to improve their defenses. Major Garcia trained pilots to work in mixed teams with their alien allies. The whole planet became a fortress. President Hayes addressed humanity on the 1-month anniversary of their victory. Billions watched as she explained the changing galactic situation. "When we first refused the Empire's demands, we stood alone," she said. "Now others stand with us. Species who have suffered under Empire rule for centuries see hope in our resistance. Powerful neutral worlds question the Empire's actions. We have sparked something that goes beyond our planet." She paused, her expression serious. "We stand not just for Earth's freedom, but potentially for the freedom of countless worlds. We never sought this role, but we will not shy from it." Admiral Xenthar, who had delivered the first ultimatum to Earth, watched the speech from his private chamber. Unlike many in the Empire, he had begun to understand humans. Their defiance wasn't just stubbornness or ignorance. It was something deeper, something that might change the galaxy forever. He wrote a private message to the Galactic Council. "We have made a serious mistake with humans. We assumed they would react like other species, choosing safety over freedom. We were wrong. The more we threaten them, the harder they resist, and now they inspire others to do the same." The Council did not respond. They were too busy dealing with growing rebellion across a dozen worlds. What had begun as a simple refusal by one planet had become a crisis threatening the entire Empire. Grand Marshal Zexvorn prepared his new fleet, determined to crush Earth once and for all. But even he could see that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. Whatever happened next, things would never be the same. 6 months after Earth's first victory, the planet hosted a historic gathering. Representatives from 27 species arrived in shuttles and ships of all shapes and sizes. Some came from worlds that had suffered under Empire rule for centuries. Others were from powerful independent systems. All came to join what many now call the Earth Alliance. The meeting took place in the rebuilt United Nations building. The room had been expanded to accommodate beings with different body types and environmental needs. Water tanks stood next to heated platforms and cooling chambers. Despite their physical differences, all the visitors shared one thing: hope for a new kind of galactic community. President Hayes opened the meeting. 6 months ago, we were alone, facing an empire that demanded our submission. Today, we gather as equals to build something better, a galactic cooperative based on mutual respect and freedom. For 3 days, the representatives worked together on the founding document. Unlike the Empire's forced terms, this agreement was built through true negotiation. Every voice was heard, every concern addressed. The final treaty established 3 core principles. Each world would keep its sovereignty, all members would defend each other, and trade would be fair and beneficial to all. Commander Warren, now promoted to Admiral Warren, was named leader of the Cooperative's Joint Defense Force. Her experience in the battle against Grand Marshal Zexborn made her respected by all member species. Colonel Daniels worked with soldiers from a dozen worlds, teaching them the unconventional tactics that had helped Earth survive. The Empire expects order and predictability, he told them. Our strength is in surprise and adaptation. Dr. Mitchell shared her technical discoveries with scientists from across the galaxy. Together, they developed new defensive systems that could protect smaller worlds from Empire attacks. Major Garcia was given command of the Unity, the first multi-species starship. Its crew included humans, Tellarites, Vosians, Nimbardi, and others. The ship symbolized the New Alliance, different beings working together as equals. The Empire watched these developments with growing concern. Their attempts to retake rebel worlds had met with strong resistance. Their threats against neutral systems had pushed more worlds toward the cooperative. For the first time in its long history, the Empire was shrinking, not expanding. After much internal debate, the Galactic Council made a difficult decision. They would recognize the cooperative and end hostilities against Earth. It was not a choice they made willingly, but one forced by reality. The cost of continued war would be too high, especially with many of their own worlds threatening to join the rebellion. Admiral Xenthar was sent to Earth as a special envoy. 6 months earlier, he had delivered an ultimatum. Now he came with a request for peace talks. When his shuttle landed, he was met by President Hayes and Ambassador Miller. The same people he had once threatened with destruction now welcomed him with formal respect, though no warmth. The Empire recognizes the Galactic Cooperative as a legitimate entity, Admiral Xenthar said, reading from an official statement. We seek peaceful relations and open borders between our territories. Ambassador Miller smiled slightly. We are open to genuine negotiation between equals. That has always been our position. The Admiral put down his prepared statement and spoke more personally. In all my years serving the Empire, I never imagined this outcome. No species has ever done what humans have done. What is that? Asked President Hayes. Change the rules of the game, replied the Admiral. For thousands of years, the pattern was the same. The Empire expands, worlds submit, the galaxy remains ordered. You refuse to play by those rules. Freedom is worth fighting for, Miller said simply. Always has been for humans. That evening, Earth celebrated not just survival, but the dawn of a new era. Cities around the world held festivals where humans danced alongside their new alien friends. Children looked up at the stars not with fear, but with excitement, knowing they would grow up in a galaxy of possibilities. What had begun with a simple refusal to surrender had led to the liberation of countless beings across the stars. Earth had proved that sometimes the greatest power lies not in weapons or technology, but in the unwavering defense of one's principles. The story of how humans shocked the galaxy by refusing to negotiate would be told on 1,000 worlds for generations to come.